I've said for a while now that I think it's important that people sit down with their loved ones and talk about estate planning, talk about wills and trusts, end of life care, things like that. I've said this is important because I feel that often this conversation comes too late. It comes when loved ones are unable to express their opinion and their wishes like they would have otherwise been able to if the conversation had occurred earlier. But I was curious. Should I really be advocating for this conversation to occur? Maybe it was already occurring. Maybe my friends and family were already sitting down and talking with one another about this. So, I decided to figure it out. I sat down with some of my friends and asked them some questions about estate planning. Let's see what they have to say. Jake, do you know what estate planning is?
No.
Ash, what would you consider to be estate planning?
Estate what?
Estate planning.
Anything that a state sort of implements as policy for an objective or goal.
Kate, do you know what estate planning is?
Estate planning?
Yeah, like with an E.
Like, where people live?
Ben, do you know what estate planning is?
I do not.
So, how would you describe estate planning?
I have no idea.
Alright, so maybe they didn't know the Investopedia definition of estate planning, but they had to know the important stuff, right? They had to know whether or not their parents had a will and where it was kept, what their family's medical wishes were, or whether their family kept important tax and financial documents, right? Do you know if your parents have a will?
I'm not sure.
No idea. I believe they do. I'm pretty sure that they do, but like 90%.
Probably. I do not actually.
Okay.
I've never asked them about it.
I'm not sure if my dad does.
So, there were a few who didn't know whether or not their parents had a will, but the majority knew. So, next I asked them whether or not they knew where their parents kept their will. And the results weren't so pretty. Do you know if your parents have a will?
Yes. Found out about that this year.
Do you know where they keep it?
No clue.
But do you know where they keep it?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I would assume it's with whoever helped them make the will.
I do not.
I do not. Probably in a safe somewhere.
Okay, but wills are scary, you know, death and all of that. So next I asked my friends a question I thought was a bit of a softball. I asked them whether or not they knew where their family kept important tax and financial documents. My thinking being that if you knew where tax and financial documents were, in an emergency or crisis, you would be able to get access to a bank account or produce some kind of tax record if you were required to do that. Jamie, do you know where your parents keep important financial and tax documents? So if you had to get access to a bank account or produce some kind of tax record, would you know how to do that?
I'm not sure I would. No, I would most likely not.
Okay.
My dad has files somewhere, but I don't know the location of them.
No.
At this point, I was officially concerned, but I figured I would ask one last question to make sure these fears weren't all in my head. So, I asked my friends whether or not they knew what their family's medical wishes were, what their parents would want them to do in a medical situation. Everyone's had a mom or dad joke and say, oh, pull the plug, don't leave me like that. But when it comes right down to it, would you know what decision they would want you to make for them? Do you know what your parents' medical wishes are? So if your mom or dad were to be injured in an accident, would you know what they would want?
No, I don't. I would not, honestly. No. No.
No,
No.
I do not.
Okay. So while that may have been funny, I don't know that it's really all that surprising. 90% of people say that talking about end-of-life care is important, and yet only 27% of people have done so. And the reason is understandable. No one wants to sit down with their parents and say, hey, if you're on life support, what do you want me to do? No one wants to say, hey, when you're gone, you're going to be buried or cremated. Those aren't fun conversations to have, but they're important. They're important because if you don't have those conversations, you risk making decisions that are against the wishes of your loved ones. You risk making a decision that's something they don't want. Make sure you give them what they want. Have that tough conversation.